Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Look Back Live and the ME7 podcast. It starts now, the Gills state, as new head coach Stephen Clemens has taken the hot seat in ME7. Tonight we will talk about that, the games in September and October and much, much more. Hello and welcome back to the ME7 podcast. Tonight I'm obviously joined, as always, by my co-host, Owen. Good evening, mate. How are you?
Relieved. I don't have to check Twitter every 2 minutes. I'm free from the stress.
Or annoy people every 2 minutes? Is that what you mean?
I don't do that. I don't tweet anything.
Oh, true. We have a debut on the show. Alex Bewley. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Happy to be here.
Yeah? Good. How's the 1893 show going?
It's going well. It's been good so far. Positive things happening. So really happy with it. Really pleased. Happy to be here with you boys.
Good man. You're Lewis. Your second appearance on the show, but obviously a regular on our weekly podcasts.
Yes.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Really excited after the news earlier today. Yeah, excited for the future. Like Owen said, a bit of relief in terms of it's done now and we can build forward. Couple of a couple of nicer games to bed him in before the league action starts, and then like you say, it starts now. So yeah, excited.
Good. Before we crack on with the show, then, as always, we like to start the show to thank our friends at Block for filming and editing. As always, the ME7 podcast. I mean, their editing skills are unbelievable. If you just go and watch the Scott Malone interview and the comments that I always say when it comes to the Scott Malone interview, it's not about our interview skills. The comments that I get back is, how good is that interview edited by Block? That's all we get. I don't get anything about how good Scott Malone is. I don't get anything good how we are. It is, oh my God, look at the lighting about the Block are doing. I can't believe it. I think that's pretty unfair. The other mention I want to give is our sponsors, which is Daniel Construction. You can see their logo in the corner. Daniel Construction, they provide specialist services in commercial and domestic contract groundworks, hard landscaping, including paving, edging, modular and bonded surfaces. So head over to danielconstruction.com for all your needs. Thanks to Laura for sponsoring this season. Okay, let's crack on with tonight's show then. It's a big one. It's going to be a long show because we've got a lot to get through, but one we're excited for. So yeah, let's go back to September then, where it all started. Owen, I have luckily written down the games for you. Yeah. Let's start with September then. September was 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. It was a loss to Grimsby, a loss. It was two then back-to-back wins. Harrogate and Morecambe, a loss to Doncaster, and a draw to Mansfield. Yeah. Go for it.
I advise everyone listening to go back and listen to our podcast of these games for a more in-depth review because I cannot remember. You lost to Grimsby. That was unfortunate. It was after that.
Back-to-back wins, Harrogate and Morecambe.
Okay, they were at home, so I've got a bit of a... No.
I thought you remember every single game, every single moment, and everything else you like to tell me. That's what he says, doesn't he?
I do, but not from this year. Harrogate and Morecambe were 2 back-to-back home games that we won, and they were 2 that we, look at on paper, you think you should be winning.
The Morecambe one was the one with Conor Mahoney's goal, wasn't it?
We were brilliant that day. Obviously, Morecambe scored. We scored 2. We won the game.
Cheers, mate. Alex, can you pick it up, please?
So obviously, I'll go back to the Grimsby game first. I was there.
So was I, unfortunately.
Every game, unfortunately.
Some
of them. That was probably the first time this season, or one of the first times this season where I've gone, that was awful.
Yeah.
What have I travelled all this way for? But then we moved on to 2 home games. The Harrogate game I don't remember as well as the Morecambe game, so we'll move on to that one, which Conor Mahoney's fantastic goal. But what I do remember in that game is their striker scoring an absolute worldie, which Jake Turner should have probably saved, where he chipped him from sort of the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And obviously the Mansfield game was I mean, against a team like Mansfield to get that result was amazing. Probably should have won it, which we'll obviously get onto with the shocking refereeing decision. But as Owen says, for a more in-depth review, go over to their old podcast.
Yeah. I mean, Lewis, from the September games, let's go from it an overview point of view rather than each an individual game. And I think this is what ended up leading to Neil Harris ended up losing his job, was the fact of, if you look at take away the Grimsby game, where it was, like Alex said, we were just awful. But you look at the Harrogate game, you look at the Morecambe game, you look at the Doncaster game, you look at the Mansfield game. What was the overriding factor that come out of that? I know what it was. What do you think it was in terms of coming away from it, those games?
I think a general overview of why Neil Harris lost his job was performances and the way we were approaching games. You can tell by Brad tweeting out, I think I said on the show before, after we lost 4-1 at Walsall in October, Brad sort of tweeted out the stats of where we had a lot more possession, more shots, that sort of thing, and he got a bit of stick for that. But I understood where he was coming from, because he was saying that we want to be approaching games in this way. You know, a lot of what's been made now about Clemens coming in is that he's going to be a bit more front-footed. They want a complete change in style, a change in approach to what Neil Harris is doing. And you know, you look at the Grimsby game, which, you know, we want to forget it, but you think now where they're in the league, they've sacked their manager, that sort of thing, similar to Colchester when we lost to them, not scoring goals. You think of the Harrogate game where we scored late and we were absolutely awful in that game as well. Losing to Doncaster as well, there was a lot of frustration, I remember, on the episodes at the time, talking about how we were going into every game always trying to make it a battle. We weren't trying to assert our authority on these games, and that was the frustrating thing really about the majority of Neil Harris's reign, I think. And just hearing you read the results back there, is a lot of examples of, you know, remembering frustrating moments where I thought we could have been a bit more positive, and you know, the lack of goals and the approach to games was very frustrating. And that was the general overview of the build up to Neil losing his job really. And his last game was at the start of October, so I suppose they were his last few matches, which would have contributed to that.
Yeah, do you think that's what it was, Alex? It's the fact that if you look at the Harrogate game, you look at the Morecambe game, it was a case of we weren't blowing these teams away. We were having to, I suppose, an individual moment of quality from Conor Mahoney got that result. It was then a scrappy 90th minute winner from Sean Williams to beat Harrogate. It was those moments that I think, do you think more alarmed people than it did not?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously from the outside looking in, people maybe think the ship wasn't as bad as it seems. Obviously, we were nearly third in the league. We were right up there. We were winning football matches, so people kind of questioned why there was so much negativity around the manager. But it was the approach to the games and how we were playing. Yes, we were winning, but we weren't playing. We weren't playing well at all. We were playing defensively at home and not really getting the fans up off their seat, not trying to win these games by blowing these teams away, which we should be blowing these teams away. Let's be honest, with the players we've got, the statements that have come in from the clubs, from the fans, what we expect, it was nowhere near. And yes, I think Neil Harris's sacking maybe came as a bit of a shock to some. It did, but I kind of understood why, because if you look at that as an owner and even as a fan, it wasn't good enough. The performances and the results maybe, or the results more, were there, but the performances were nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, the Mansfield game obviously ended the month, Owen. I actually thought we played very, very, very well that afternoon, and would have won it had it not been for probably the worst refereeing decision I've ever seen in my time going football.
Yeah, I thought we were really good up to that point. Obviously, we got the early goal from Macaulay, and we were in control. We were creating chances. We took apart a good Mansfield team on the counter-attack very often in that first half, and we looked like the top three team that we wanted to be. And obviously, it's an example of how one decision can change a game. It won't be the only big decision in the EFL this season. It certainly might be up there for the worst though. Yeah, look, I mean, I remember doing that podcast on that Saturday night, and it was a tough one to get through, having to actually talk about it constantly. But I think it says a lot about certain decisions, or even fans of the opposition team are thinking, well, if that happened to us, I'll be fuming. It went against the law book of the actual game to allow them to play advantage when he'd already got the yellow card out. Disciplinary procedure had already started, should be pulled back. It's it's common. And then up the other end, it happened to us immediately after, but we got pulled back for it, albeit we took it from a completely different position. But still, it is just another example of the incompetence of referees in this division. And we're going to get a decision for us at some point, not maybe a carbon copy of it, but something as controversial, and it will go in our favour. And two wrongs don't make a right, but it just goes to show that the people in the middle in these sort of divisions, it begs belief sometimes, I suppose. But I come out of that game happy with our performance. Felt that we deserved to win the game on the basis of the first half. Second half, I think Mansfield had the better of it. Obviously, got the towers up, scoring so late in the first half, having it handed to them as well. And it, you can see why they are still unbeaten in the league. Anyway, I know they lost last night in the Carabao Cup, but they're obviously someone who's going to be right up there at the end of the season, and a team that we can take confidence now from the same players under new management that they can compete with those teams up there, because we know we can. But another day it would have been a statement victory, if you like, and they wouldn't be on this unbeaten run they're still on. But you can't really legislate for EFL officiating. It's just something that happens very, very often, and something that's going to keep happening, because if they make a mistake, they either get a week off work paid, or they're just going to take another game next week. There's no real accountability for it. But that's the league we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah. Obviously, the game, October started, Crew, which was Neil Harris's last game in charge. Ended up Neil Harris's last game in charge. I mean, it was an evening that I look back on before they even scored, we should have been 3 or 4-0 up. I suppose the question I want to put to you, Lewis, is that yes, Neil Harris lost his job on that 48 hours later, but in those previous games, obviously after Morecambe, we then didn't win for about 3 weeks. How much of a blame do the players have to take? Because ultimately they're the ones that cross the white line, and they're the ones that are putting the ball in the back of the net, aren't they?
Yeah, a lot of people sort of say that, don't they? The manager can only do so much. Yeah. But also it is the manager's team, so at the end of the day, they've got to take responsibility for that. And ironically, really, Crewe was the game where I sort of thought, I felt a bit more sympathy towards Neil Harris in terms of what was happening on the pitch, because we were at times creating chances and we were missing some good chances. I made the journey to Crewe that night and couldn't believe my eyes when I think it was George Lapsley missed a great chance and Macaulay Bond missed a great chance. Yeah. Ethan Coleman put a header wide. He had a couple of efforts from distance.
Hit the post, didn't he?
He hit the post, in the first half. We created opportunities in that one. And Crewe are a really good side, by the way. I think Crewe will be competing in the top 7. Really a massive fan of what they're doing in terms of bringing their own players through, that sort of thing. I don't know if you've ever been to Crewe, but their stadium's weird, isn't it? Because they've got one massive stand, which they paid for by selling one of their academy players. So I really like the sort of method they take. In terms of our own performance, really, that was when I felt a bit more sympathy, because I thought we were creating chances, and the players weren't putting them away. But as you say, the manager has to take responsibility for his team, and it was going on a long time. I thought this season was a fresh start. We all thought it out in Como. Seeing Neil in the fan forums when he said himself he had more sort of, I don't know if motivation is the right word, but he felt like it was a fresh start with the new ownership and the new season and the back end, that sort of thing. But it was a problem when he came in League One. We weren't scoring goals. Can't blame him for that. Wasn't his team. He said at the time, my strikers will always score, and we're waiting for it. It didn't come. Last season, we had goal scoring problems. I think it was 7 in the first 28 or something like that. crazy. And then this season, when he had that fresh start, he had his team, he had the back end, it was the exact same issue. So I think that game really just underlined that, you know, we were having these iffy results where we weren't scoring goals, and when one went in, you knew we weren't going to win because we were very rarely scoring 2 or more. So yeah, ironically, that was probably where I felt a bit more sympathy for him, because I thought we played all right that night, but I can also understand why it was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, Alex, like Lewis says, final nail in the coffin. 48 hours later, the trigger was pulled on Neil Harris. 11 games in, he was relieved of his duties on that Thursday. 48 hours after the Crew game, but 48 hours before the MK Dons game. Give us your look back on when that was announced, the statement was announced that he was relieved of his duties. What was your initial thoughts?
It was one of shock, I'll be honest. Like Lewis, I made the trip up to Crew that night, and I'll be honest, when I walked away from the stadium, that was the angriest I've been this season. But looking back and having the day when I got home to sort of sit on it, I think we played well that night, and that was probably one of the performances where I thought, actually, if we play like that in the coming games, we play like that at the weekend against MK Dons, we'll win. And that was the type of performance that I wanted to see from us, because we could have easily had 3 or 4 that night, and that was free flowing. We had chances, great chances, and for the trigger to be pulled after that, I understand why, because it was a bad run of results. That's the only bit where I had that sympathy for him, because I was a bit like, we started to see some sprouts of what we wanted to see in that game, and then obviously the trigger got pulled for whatever reason that may be. But was it too soon for me? Yes, that's why I was so shocked. I was at work and I got a text that was from Beth saying, "Have you sinned?" And I went, "No." And then everyone at work went, "Have you sinned?" And I went, "No." What am I seeing here? Someone tell me. And I took my lunch early to just sort of look at what had happened, because I genuinely couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I mean, we can have this conversation all night. Should he have been sacked? Shouldn't he have been sacked? I mean, I know your thoughts on it.
I'm the worst person to ask this.
We've probably got, me and him have contrasting opinions. So.
You do have contrasting opinions. I mean, keep it short and sweet. Should he? And then we'll let you go.
It's hard to say it now because I don't really want to dwell on it, because we've started a new era. We've started new man's in. I don't really want to talk about Neil anymore. Not because I don't like him.
That's a lie.
You do?
No, I just said not because I don't like him.
No. I mean, you do want to talk about it, because if you look down your Twitter page, you will see a number of photos of Neil Harris.
Sorry, I've just taken an interest in my close personal friends' lives. So I always check to see what you're doing, Lewis, Alex. It's just common courtesy.
No pictures of me on your Twitter feed, though.
Huh?
No pictures of me on your Twitter feed.
Maybe one day. Conscious of who's listening. Look, at the time when I first heard the news, I was not happy, and I was gonna write a strongly worded complaint. But look, I always saw both sides of it. I thought the annoying thing with the fan base on Twitter, there was no real middle ground in terms of debate. It was either you're extremely pro or you're extremely anti-Neil. Sounds like an advert for something else, doesn't it? But look, at the time, I thought it was early, because like Alex said, I took the positives on the Crew game. I mean, look, on another day, is it Neil Harris' fault? George Lapson misses a sitter. Is it Macaulay? Well, it was Macaulay Bond's fault. Is it Neil Harris' fault? Macaulay Bond missed a sitter in that game. If they score those chances, which they should, we're probably coming away with 3 points. But look, I get his style wasn't always easy on the eye, shall we say? It wasn't always going to be popular, but for the majority of the season, the stats spoke for itself, and it breeded the results, and people didn't seem too bothered about winning 1-0 when it was boring. But, I guess if you want to see more attractive football, which gets people up off their seats and gets us winning at the same time, then obviously you're going to take that opportunity, and that's something we've done now. But look, I've said before that I thought it was early. If it had continued, say for argument's sake, Neil Harris was still here now, and the form kept dipping from the time he was sacked to now, I'd probably think okay, maybe we've got serious questions to ask, because I always said when we weren't playing that great that I think the best place was to look towards December when it gets to Christmas time, and then see where we are. You know, could you imagine that? Like, happy birthday, Neil, P45. Happy Christmas, I should say.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah.
I was about to say happy birthday.
Well,
Do you know his birthday as well?
might be.
Do you know where he lives?
Anyway. But yeah, I thought that was always a good time frame to see where we are, because obviously if you decide at that point it's not great, and it's you get someone in, because then at that point you've got the January window, haven't you? So they can come straight in, they can look at the squad, see what they have to do to change it. But you know, a decision was made. Since it's been made, we've probably had the same sort of results I would have expected under Neil. There's some results I think we would have got better of with Neil, but then you can't really pin that on Keith Midden, because I don't really think that's fair. But like you said, I don't think we would have conceded 4 at Walsall. I think we probably would have got something out of the MK Dons game. We certainly wouldn't have been dominated the way
did.
we were.
We won.
No, the Notts County game, sorry. I don't think we would have been dominated as much as we were against Notts County, despite how good a team they were. Yeah, the MK Dons game we would have won over on.
I think so.
You know,
I agree.
On the subject of Christmas, they gave us both goals, didn't they? But,
Yeah.
And you know, they're rubbish. And you know, what was the last game we played? Newport was. I mean, Newport's hard to sort of isn't it? 'Cause I think the whole event with what happened sort of changed the whole.
Marred it, didn't it?
Changed the whole-
Unfortunately.
I think you can see from what happened in the second half that it drastically affected the on-field matters. So I don't think you can really speak too much about that in terms of performance or whatever. But you know, the decision's been made. You know, it's called Look Back Live, and in terms of Neil, unfortunately, we're not going to look back anymore.
Lewis,
Just wanna s-
keep it a lot shorter than him.
yeah, just want to start by saying
Yeah, he did say that, didn't
his birthday's in July, so literally as far away from
Oh,
Christmas
same as
you can
me.
get.
Oh,
he?
sake.
July the 12th.
Close.
Yeah, no, I think I made it clear in terms of there wasn't any progression in terms of the attack in front, and Brad has made that categorically clear. I think that he wants us to be having more control of games, be better on the eye, and a lot of people say that being better on the eye, playing good football doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get better results, but it also doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get worse results. A lot of the time in League Two, you know, there's ways of doing it. If you try and play like Russell Martin did when he was in this division, then you're going to get picked apart in terms of refusing to go direct at times. But at the same time, I think, you know, all I was asking for really was a bit more of a positive approach when we were playing teams that we should be beating. And, you know, people have said to me to death on Twitter, you can never expect to win in games, but if you're going in to play Colchester, who haven't won a game yet this season, they're bottom of the league, you're top of the league, you should expect to beat them. Doesn't mean it's going to be an easy game, but I think you should expect to beat them, and playing in a bit more of a positive way. That's the bottom line, really. And we didn't see any progression in terms of the goal scoring numbers. You know, we were finding a way to get results. I remember coming out of the Sutton game and thinking, like, oh God, can I do this all year? You know, narrow wins. Even that Morecambe game, I sort of accepted that we weren't going to be battering teams, but those defeats that shouldn't have been coming were happening too often for me. And, you know, ultimately we want to be a more front foot team, aggressive team, and that's not what we were. So the decision was made, and I completely agree with it, because I wasn't enjoying, you know, I was enjoying the results, but I wasn't enjoying watching my team play, and I'd rather have both if that's possible.
Fair comment. Yeah. So we can get on to obviously the new man in charge. Alex, obviously the games after that, MK Dons, Walsall, Notts County, Swindon and Newport were all overseen by Keith Millen. Keith oversaw 2 wins and 3 losses. Yeah, 2 wins and 3 losses. Yeah, in your opinion, overview, how has Keith done in the interim charge?
I don't think we could be too harsh on him. At the end of the day, I think it was, you know, a couple of days after he kind of ruled himself out of the running for the role full time. It was very clear from the get-go. He didn't want it. He wasn't the man, and he was just there to do the job until we found ultimately what Brad and Shannon wanted. Overall, I think it went okay. Walsall was one of the worst experiences of my life. I could happily never go to that stadium again. But I think the one that really stands out for me was Swindon. So that for me, and some will argue this, was our best performance of the season. Without question. We had, the reason I say that, we had clear sets of how we wanted to play in both thirds. So when we were attacking, it was clear what we wanted to do, and we were defensively solid against a team that is... Charlie Austin is one of... Say what you want about him, he's one of the best players in this league, and we got him out of the game completely. He walked down the tunnel when he came off. He was that frustrated about playing against us that he walked down the tunnel when he came off. For me, that was the best performance, and Millen should hold his head up high, because that wasn't down to the players. That was fully down to the way he set us up.
Interesting. That's a really interesting comment. Okay. Let's move on to the new manager then. The new manager in charge that was announced this afternoon was Mr. Stephen Clemens. Former Aston Villa, Newcastle assistant
Basically
manager.
anywhere Steve Bruce has been.
Just keep going, yeah. Birmingham player, played in the Premier League. Obviously got promotion out of the Championship into the Premier League for Aston Villa. Hull was it? Jack Grealish has basically called him the best assistant manager he has ever worked for, which interesting comment. Owen, give us your thoughts on the appointment of Stephen Clemens.
Have you got half hour?
No.
Said that at the same time. It's a hard one to really talk about, because when it's very much an unknown. When someone comes in who doesn't have any previous managerial experience, you struggle to find sort of things to look at in terms of past, experiences. Obviously, you can look at assistant manager jobs, but it's not the same thing as managing a first team. But no, look, he's obviously been with Steve Bruce basically everywhere. Steve Bruce apparently is one of the people who recommended him to the club. He's someone who's been trying to, comments from Clemens. I think there's an article with the Athletic. Someone picked up on it. He did in the summer that Steve Bruce has been trying to get him to go and have his first role somewhere, because he's at the point where he's ready for it. I listened to his interview earlier on the Jules YouTube channel. He spoke very well. I thought he gave me a lot of reason to be optimistic. He seemed very intent on a front foot, attractive style of play, which I'm sure will please a lot of people. It's easy to say it, but we're going to see it on the pitch. I have no reason to believe we won't. He seems very driven. He's very complimentary of the players we have, because we do have good players in the attacking third. And yeah, I'm excited for what we're going to see, because obviously, as much as it's a bit difficult to really talk about it without having any previous to go on in terms of previous manager roles, it also makes it a bit more exciting, because you're going to be the first club to experience Clemens ball in a first team coach role. So that excites me a lot. I know the argument really is that there's a lot of people saying it's good because it's an unknown. It's his first appointment, and there's obviously the other side of that. People I've not seen anyone fully against it, but I've seen people questioning the fact that we're bringing in someone who hasn't managed or coached at first team level before. But look, there's examples of where it's gone wrong, but there's a lot of good examples, particularly in recent years, where it's gone very right. Kieran McKenna could be on the cusp of the Premier League with Ipswich, and he worked with Manchester United. Clemens obviously has worked with Manchester City, so there's precedent for it. Liam Rossini is another one who's doing well at Hull, I believe. Yeah. So look, there's proof that it can work, and obviously we're gonna be hoping that it follows that trend.
Lewis, I saw your Twitter earlier. You are very, very excited at the fact of Stephen Clemens coming into the job.
I am excited, yeah. I suppose if you've sort of listened to the show that I've been on recently, or seen my tweets or whatever, that I was quite on board with Scott Lindsay coming in, which wasn't massively popular with a lot of fans. I say a lot of people probably were on the side of no rather than yes. But for me, I know that he plays decent football, and that's not the be and end all, but it's a very handy thing to have. When Clemens sort of, because the rumour mill goes rounds, and we heard that he was sort of on the cusp, and then it went away, and then it sort of came back again. And when it sort of came back again, I was really excited, because he wants to play that front foot approach, and people have said, I hope he didn't pick up too much from Steve Bruce, because especially in his later years, I suppose Bruce was known not to have the most exciting football on the eye. But you're right to mention the amount of managers he's played under, what he's achieved. I've been mentioned is with Manchester City, and I've just got a quote that I have to apologise because I don't know where it's from, but he was talking about the intensity of teams. Can you produce that of teams lower down the league? I believe you can. You know, he wants to be aggressive and try and get results that way, and I think that's a positive. I think Brad was very accurate and good with what he said regarding that it didn't matter if they've not coached before, it didn't matter their experience, it's just the approach. And I think there was always going to be some sort of question with who we brought in, because Neil Harris, in terms of what he achieved with Millwall, where he was managing Cardiff, where we were second until recently in terms of the form table for the league and League Two, you know, not a lot of managers that were available. You know, I don't know who was pursued, for example, but not a lot of the managers who were available had the same sort of stature as Neil Harris and the record, I suppose. But yeah, we've gone, you know, it's a risk, but it's an exciting risk because he's going to bring that fresh energy, someone who's ready for their first job, someone who's going to be aggressive, give their all. And yeah, when you compare it to the likes of McKenna, Rosimoir, Schumacher, Carrick, people like that, you know, you can hope it'll be one of them. And you know, maybe he won't be our manager in 5 years, because maybe he'll be managing the Championship or the Premier League. You never know. But yeah, it's a really exciting appointment. Owen says we've not got too much to go off, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what he can do.
Yeah, Alex. Obviously, it took a little while. It took the best part of 5 weeks to find a manager, but it suggests to me, knowing how well we know Brad and Shannon, and the type of people they are. Do you think? And obviously the extensive process they said, Brad has said himself, he went through about 20 people, whittled it down to then 4, and obviously Stephen has done something that has stood out. Lewis has read the article where, and I have read the same article where he says about that he wants to play that front foot, high pressing, attacking football that Liverpool play. Do you think that's what's got him the job, off the basis of he is probably one of the ones that looks outside the box and is something different?
I mean, yeah, that's probably one of the reasons. I think what we've seen is, and credit to Brad and Shannon, because this decision will put a lot of pressure on them. If it goes wrong, there will be massive uproar from the fan base, and they've really put themselves out there in terms of how long this takes and saying we aren't going to rush this. We're going to get our man, and that's exactly what they found. Ultimately, he's said the right things. He's got the right philosophies. He's got the right ways that he wants to play football, and not just that. I'd imagine, knowing Brad and Shannon, it's not just the results on the pitch. It'll be everything that he brings. Yeah. So how he's going to be around the club, how he's going to be with the GFC school, the academy, how he's going to match that energy that we've seen since they come into the club. Ultimately. I'm not sold fully, but I don't think anyone can be. You know, you can say you are, but he's not got a footballing CV in terms of managing himself. So this could go horribly wrong, but it could go horribly right.
Yeah. And
this could be the best decision we ever see in this football club and in the Gallanton era. So if it's their man, whether it was yours or not, because it wasn't mine, let's back it, get behind the boys, and hope that it's the right choice for the football club.
Bang on. Okay, cool. We've had quite a lot of questions in from people that follow us. Some that we can answer now, some that there's no chance that we can answer, but we're going to give it a go. We'll put the first one to you. It's a difficult one, so good luck. Do you see Stephen Clemens ditching the 2 holding midfielders in favour of a more attacking-minded formation?
I didn't know you could have 2 midfielders. They have to be strictly in attacking formations. No.
Let me just bell him quick and I'll ask him.
I think one of our best players, well, our best player in my opinion, is a defensive midfielder. So he's going to be in there. That'd be an Ethan Coleman. Who else could it be? Sorry, this looks really weird.
Nick won't know.
Ashley Naderson. But no, look, I think Coleman's, for me, the first name on the team sheet, so he's going to be there. Attacking formation could easily be a 4-2-3-1, or it could be a 4-2. The wide cams you get on FIFA, you know, those ones.
That's 4-2-3-1 still.
Yeah, but
Or
an inverted-
4-2-2-2, isn't it? Something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
I don't think you need to get rid of two defensive midfielders. Coleman would be there, then you've got. I'd say now he's back. You probably put Tim DeYoung there ahead of Sean Williams at this moment in time. But you also, if you want to play attacking formation, you also can't just then get away from the defensive stability you want as well, because otherwise you might be really attacking, but you're going to leave yourself massively open as well. So I don't think it would be wise to really do that.
If I could just butt in, I think Dom Jeffries has done well in there also, but I also think a lot of people want us to play this system that, like Owen said, just thinks about the attacking side of things, where you've got Coleman and then you've got like Mahoney, Clark, Johnny Williams, and when you're off the ball, I've not seen Johnny Williams play centre midfield for Gillingham. I've not seen George Laps. I know he played sort of wide centre midfield. I've not seen George Lapsley play centre midfield for Gillingham. It's always going to be Coleman plus Jeffries, Dieng, Williams. I don't think necessarily as well having, if we play 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1, I don't necessarily think that means defensive midfielders. Like Coleman obviously likes to sit, but you see Jeffries getting forward, you see Sean Williams getting forward, and playing 4-4-2 as well, that they have that license as well. So I don't necessarily think playing that system means you're not playing attacking football.
Okay. Next question, Alex. This is quite a blunt question, quite a difficult question to answer.
Thanks,
but
mate.
I'll put it in a way that's easier for you to answer. What can we, as a football club and a fan base, look forward to now in this new era?
Again, because of the lack of footballing first team management, that's a really hard question to answer. From what we've already heard, the intensity, wanting to play that forward-thinking, attacking football, I think what we'll see is a blend of how to win football games at League Two. Clearly, he must have said the right things in order to do that, mixed in with that little bit of class in the Premier League, that little bit of oomph, that little bit of more class than you see with. I mean, Mansfield are a great team, but they're a League Two team. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll see a little bit different where we've got the best blend of two. Again, we don't know until we see it. That's probably one of the most exciting bits. It's, that old saying, what happens tomorrow? Who knows? That's the exciting part.
Yeah. Okay. Lewis, next question. With the appointment of Stephen Clemens as our new head coach, are we now calling this the start of the true Gallinson era? His appointment, his philosophy, his vision.
Yeah, I think so. I think with a lot of managers, when new owners take over a club, a lot of the time they do want their own manager. Speak about Steve Bruce. You think when the Newcastle owners went into Newcastle, the first thing that happened was Steve Bruce left, and I know that was sort of off his own accord. Clemens as well, I suppose, would have been part of that. And I know that was off their own accord, but sometimes you can walk in and have a good manager. If Man City had new owners tomorrow, they're not going to sack Pep Guardiola. But I think the Gallinsons, this is their first decision in terms of who they want to appoint, and they've had the players coming in. Was Jackett and Hesenthaler recruiting for a Neil Harris team? I don't know. Speaking to Alex before we started, there's a lot of versatility in this team that can fit a lot of systems. So, yeah, they've now got their own leader. The decision they've made. Obviously, it was their decision to stay with Neil for a long time, but they've got this decision now, and it's going to take a while. We're not going to blow Wrexham out the water, hopefully, but probably not. But yeah, it's now sort of project manager who can lead this team going forward with the backing, because the owners have made that decision.
Okay. Owen, what's your realistic expectations of success this season?
I don't want to put too much pressure on Stephen Clements, but I think when Harris was sacked where he was, the amount of points we were from the top three, I think anything other than playoffs is a failure. I think we have to, at the very least, be in the playoffs. Really, I think we should be going up on the precedence of why we sacked Neil Harris, but I don't want to put that much pressure on him. Look, if we don't end up in the top seven, I think when with all due respect, if you look at the teams that are in there now, I know we're only just below, but Morecambe are in there. Sorry, any Morecambe fans listening for whatever reason. But you have like sort of bubbles in this league of teams. You have your Wrexhams, your Notts Counties, your Mansfield, your Stockports. Are probably the four that are the big four in this division, certainly in terms of quality and well, Stockport have won 10 games in the bounce or something now, and they look certain to get one further up than they did last year. And then Wrexham, Notts County have the budget, so they're going to be up there regardless. But I think if the quality we've got on this team with a new leader behind it, I think if we don't get in the playoffs, I think that is a failure. I do kind of think if we don't go up, it is a bit of a failure, but I don't want to say that out what I just did. But I don't want to put too much pressure on him. But look, I'll just say if we don't get the playoffs, then I would see it as a failure.
Can I butt in on that one
Go on, mate.
quickly? Slightly different perspective on it.
Yeah.
I do think playoffs is a minimum. However, and everyone's going to disagree with me on this, most Jules fans will, if we see Clemens come in and put a clear style of football in play, and he is very clear about how he wants his team to play, and that there's a clear system in place, and we just miss out or we lose in the playoffs, I'd be happy with that. As long as we've got direction, as long as I see that direction that we've been promised, that new direction, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I think making the playoffs, it's a lottery. The playoffs is a lottery. You could have had any manager in charge of the team. If you end up losing in the playoffs, it's unfortunate, isn't it? I don't know. I think I'm in agreement with Owen. I think if we miss out on the playoffs, it's a failure. Unfortunately, if we lose in the playoffs, it is what it is. Like you're then effectively playing a two-legged game against one of the best teams in the league. So you haven't got a God-given right to go and win those two games and then win the game at Wembley. But I think for me, where we sack Neil, and from then the quality in the squad, from then the extensive process that the Gallantons have gone through, and Kenny and Hess and Scally and everyone else have gone through to get the manager, to then lose out would be pretty tough to take.
I'd be disappointed, and I do agree that it would be a level of failure, but that failure would be a little bit more acceptable if we can see that there's a clear path for this team to play next season. Because you look at Stockport, I know they got playoffs and they lost in the playoffs, but you look at them this season, it was very clear what Dave Chandler wanted to do there. It was very clear his style of play and very clear that they were very good football inside. They had the right man. So if we can see that, and now this season they're blowing everyone out of the water, apart from us at the start of the season, obviously. As long as we see that, if we miss out just in the playoffs, if we lose in the playoffs, I'll be all right.
Okay. No, I'll get your point. Is it your next question? Are you the next one?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to put it slightly differently because it does say, should we expect to see a Klopp heavy metal style of football under new head coach Stephen Clemens? And if so, we don't know. So what I will say is that let's go off what he has said in a previous article with other media outlets, and he wants to bring that brand of football. The next point, this person says in the question, can it work in League Two? Do you think it can?
Yeah, I think it can work in League Two. I think aspects of that is the way Steve Evans likes to play football in terms of off the ball play a lot of the time. I remember being here for, I think it was against MK Dons, and it might have even been Russell Martin, but I think they scored early and they scored a goal after like 25 passes or something, and then a big deal was being made of it, and we sat off. And Evans said after that there was just a sort of switch where he said, okay, we're going to press now. And I think because of the quality of players in this division, more often than not, you're going to be able to catch people out playing that way and playing on the front foot, out of possession. I think on the ball, like we say, it's impossible to predict because he's played under Steve Bruce, he's learned from Pep Guardiola, he's got an assistant manager, he's got Kenny Jackett there, Andy Hesenthaler. There's so many different sort of styles, Glenn Hoddle, George Graham, and people that he's sort of learnt from to build what he wants to do. And maybe tomorrow in the press conference we'll hear a bit more about that. But I think definitely from hearing what Brad wants and what the specification is and the way Clemens talks in terms of external interviews he's done, Sky Sports interview and the other one that I read earlier, I think he definitely wants to play that way. I'm not saying he's not at times going to shut up shop when we're defending a lead, or he's not going to never play a long ball in his life, but it's definitely going to be more front foot and aggressive.
Okay. Yeah, let's move on to the squad now then, in terms of what Clemens has got at his disposal. He's already mentioned it in his interview with Phil today, that he is massively excited at the squad at his disposal. He's watched us for weeks. He knows the qualities that we've got. He knows the areas that he can improve. He's already said that. So one of the questions that we have had, Owen, is that when a new manager is appointed, it usually is a fresh start for the entire squad, meaning that players that necessarily aren't involved can be involved. Do you think there can be anyone that potentially might think, apart from your mate Lewis Walker, may well force their way in?
I said to Owen on the way in, can you imagine he gets Lewis Walker like main striker, scoring goals every week?
I think that's his dream. I think he dreams about that every night.
Thing is, everyone wants to play this attacking style of football. We've got a lot of attacking, creative players, but they're not all going to fit into the team, obviously. So, you're going to have debates about, like, does Johnny Williams start or does George Lapsley start? If Hawkins ever comes back, we don't know. When Addison will be back at some point, and you've got him, Nichols, Bond, etc. Because there's going to be a lot of competition for a lot of different places. There's not many players who don't get in. Don't get any minutes every week. Max Clark's probably the only one, but that's because of how good Scott Malone is, and it's just one position. Obviously, we've got some of the younger players. I'm sure Clemens want to take a look at. They're probably not ready yet. We think we know that, but that's why the B team exists. And they'll be fine going back with Keith to do the B team and the youth team. Lewis Walker, as you mentioned, is back from a spell at Woking. It's interesting. Someone messaged me earlier. I think they're probably joking. They're like, "Oh, Lewis Walker can't go out again now, so he's going to be stuck here because he can't play for 3 teams in one season." But I think he may be able to go out on loan again because he obviously hasn't played for us this season. He hasn't played any minutes in the first team, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back on loan again. To be honest, providing that is okay, because I don't think he's played for us. I think he would be fine. But I don't think there's anyone so much outside of the squad who hasn't really got in terms of a lot of minutes. I mean, obviously, if we go back to a back 5, then Max Zane will come back in. But yeah, I think it's more just going to be a good balance and a good competitive nature for those attacking-minded positions, because obviously you won't have a team with both Lapsey and Williams. You wouldn't suspect, and you've got Jaden Clark, Mahoney, and the strikers I've mentioned. So it'll be more exciting to see the players who are already getting minutes now fight out between each other, rather than think of specific players who might be able to get in who haven't played a lot, because I just don't think there's that many who haven't played a lot of minutes this season, really. Unless I'm missing someone obvious, but I don't think I
don't think so. Last question then, Alex, put it to you. Yeah, obviously a complete unknown from this the new guy. We know that the Gills fans are, I fair to say, impatient bunch when it comes to managers or style of football or whatever else they want to moan about. The pies are not hot. The pies are not hot enough down at the Rainham end. They like to moan about anything they can moan about. Is that going to be an issue where this is not going to be an overnight thing? This is going to be a brand of football, a new style of football that probably we haven't seen here at Priestfield for a number of years. How important is it that the Gills fans stay patient with this?
Massively, because as I've just said, as long as he comes in and puts that clear in place, I'll be happy. But a lot of fans won't. A lot of fans will turn if we don't see some sort of instant success, because football is fickle at times, and it's not just Gills fans; it's fans of football all across the world. What I will say is, it shouldn't matter if they do get impatient. As long as he's got the right head on him, he shouldn't care, because he should believe in his ability enough and believe in the process enough. And you've got to believe that he's got the backing of the owners to put that process in place. So what the fans think, I know we don't necessarily have a say, but it's an important thing of having the fans on your side. And if you really lose the fans, then you can see horrible scenes. As long as he sticks to his guns and plays his own style of play, and it eventually starts to work and he can win them back round, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting one. Yeah, I suppose, Lewis, we've seen it at Priestfield where fans make comments of, "Oh, we're not keeping the ball enough. Oh, but we're going long. Oh, but we're not doing this," and they end up contradicting themselves. The thing is that people that sit around me, and I don't know about you, I know you've moved now, but people that sit around by me hate it when we keep the ball round the back and go sidewards for far too long. They hate that. Gills fans just hate that. If Stevie Clemens comes into this job and does that on day one and will continue to do that, can you see Gills fans just getting very impatient very, very quickly if then that is not resulting into instant success straight away?
Yeah, I can see a lot of frustration coming from various things. Like you said, I've moved now from the Rainer Men to the Medway stand. Partly because of the view, partly because some of the stuff you hear is just mental. I think, I don't want to paint every Gills fan the same brush, but a lot of people, I think, just don't understand football. I think people get angry when they're keeping the ball for too long. You pass 1 centimetre backwards and someone loses their head, or they go long and they lose their head. But like you said, you can't have both. I think partly because of that frustration at the start of the season when we were passing to the centre backs, then to the full back, then to the keeper, then to the centre backs, then going long. I think a lot of that was down to, this is probably a bit of a general statement, but it was down to Neil Harris because of you had players wanting to either hit the channels or hit the last line, or you had people like Sean Williams going into sort of left back positions, and the midfield was just empty in terms of our players. But yeah, I can see a lot of frustration, but I think, like Alex said, it's important to not always acknowledge that because, this man is in charge of our team now because he knows what he's doing. He's the most intelligent person available for this job. That's the bottom line. And, hopefully people will give him the benefit of the doubt for a long time and back him. I'm sure people will. He'll get a good reception for that Salford game. You'll always get people like that. But, yeah, I think people that are aware of what's going on and can identify stuff like patterns of play and what he's trying to do, then he'll get a good back in as long as it's successful, I suppose.
Yeah, what I will say before we move on to our quiz that we've got tonight, a little quiz to finish off. What I will say is that you mentioned about the fan base and the fact that you've moved. On Saturday, we obviously saw a completely unsavoury scene from a Gills fan. I call a Gills fan. They're not a Gills fan. They never will represent this football club. And what I will say for anyone that is watching tonight, that is not us. That is not us as a fan base. We don't represent that. A massive shout out to the fan that got involved and picked the racist fan out because he is a racist fan out and plucked him from the crowd to get him arrested. And there's been so many behaviours and things that have been said in the Rainham End and throughout the ground from recent weeks. The football club are doing an excellent job to stamp it out, but I think us as Gills fans do need to come together now. And if we do hear or see anything, or just from afar or near, just don't be afraid to report it, even if it's someone you possibly know, or necessarily you see but you don't agree with. We just need to get it out. We need to get it kicked out because it could end up resulting in us being points deducted and can end up missing out on the playoffs because of it. So the fact of the matter is that just keep doing what we're doing as Gills fans, kicking it out. It's not good enough. I've been Gills fan for nearly 23 years now, and I've never known it as bad as this. It's disgusting. It's not good enough. It's not us as a fan base. It never will be. So yeah, like Joe, Brad and Shannon and everyone else at the football club have said it, report it. Please report it because it's so unsettling to see it when you're watching a game. When you're watching a game, you're thinking, I walked away from the ground Saturday embarrassed as a Gills fan. And we just don't want it. We don't want it at our football club. So I think us as a fan base, as friends, as Gills fans, just need to get together and report people if they're not behaving themselves inside that ground. So yeah, that's my word on it. What we're also going to say before we move on to the quiz as well, Block have hit 1,000 followers while being live on air tonight. So there is a little competition that he will be doing or running. He's going to be giving away a signed Gillingham football, but he's only going to be giving it away if you're following Block Pictures on Twitter. So if you haven't followed him yet, or haven't followed Block, go over and follow him, and you will be within a chance of winning a signed Gillingham football. Owen?
And if you don't win, you'll get a signed football from Lewis Browning.
Yeah.
All the more reasons
True.
to enter for me.
It's true.
Who
You
wants
will.
that? Who wants that? I don't know who wants that more. I want the signed Lewis Browning ball now. Right, okay. So to end the end tonight's show, it's been a good one, but we're gonna play a little quiz called Higher or Lower.
Your phone's looking straight at me, so I'm looking up.
Good man. No cheating. Well done.
No, I can see.
Did you see the answers or not?
No, I wasn't looking.
I'm the only one losing out here, aren't I?
You are losing out. Unlucky. Okay, right. Higher or lower? All right. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 questions. 6 questions, all put together by me.
2 each.
Okay, I know.
Well done, mate. Proud of you.
I know. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Okay. So, question 1. Right. How we're going to do it is I'm going to read the question out.
I gathered that.
I'll give it 10 seconds. Come to you. Sorry.
Or should it be like a buzzer system?
Please. No.
Yeah. Coffin fit. Who has more Instagram followers? Tom Nichols or George Lapsley?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Well, do we jump in or do we...
Do you want us to jump in or you going to go round?
Go round. I'll go round.
Okay, starting here.
Alex, go.
I'm pretty certain I know for a fact that it's Tom Nichols.
Okay.
I would say Nichols because he's played for more clubs.
I'm pretty certain I know for a fact now that it's Tom Nichols. I was going to say Nichols anyway.
Yeah. Okay. It is Tom Nichols. 7,959 followers.
Proud of myself, that one.
George Lapsley has got 6,247 followers.
It's good.
Ah, well, he didn't. Should put it to Nick. Okay.
He's a good-looking bloke as well, isn't he, Tom Nichols?
He is.
I mean, just giving me the weirdest look. Like, why he's playing that about our
to be
player.
fair, I see where you're coming from that. He's a bit more of an Instagram personality than George Lapsley. Love you though, George.
When you said that, Nick went, who, me?
Follow the Twitter to find out.
Yeah. Follow his Twitter to find out, yeah. Right, okay, next question. Who is taller, Scott Malone or Connor Masterson?
Connor Masterson.
Malone.
Scott Malone.
Yeah, see that, mate?
About the quizzes. I'm lads.
I know all the heights of my close personal friends.
1 point. Scott Malone is 1.89 metres. Connor Masterson, 1.85.
I'd want
Malone
to
is
see a
actually,
VAR.
in person. Malone is quite deceptively tall. I didn't think he was as tall as he
He's
is.
got
to be
long
honest.
legs.
He's got long legs. You're right.
He's got long arms, hasn't he, Nick?
I'm starting to get a little bit worried here.
Okay. In all competitions, hang on a minute. 1.2 2 points. In all competitions, who's played more games? Johnny Williams or Jaden Clark?
What, for Jills or
Yes.
overall?
Yes, for Gills. In all competitions this season, who has played more games? Johnny Williams or Jaden Clark? Alex.
Johnny Williams. I think.
I'd actually say Clark.
I'm going to say Clark as well. Williams has had a couple of injuries, hasn't he?
It's Jaden Clark.
Not good at this.
Was that including like EFL Cup games?
Yes. In all competitions.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Is it really a competition though?
He's played like 3,000 more minutes.
I think Clark's at least come off the bench in every game. Whereas Williams
I
has
just
had
think it's
injuries.
silly now, don't I?
There you go. Okay. Second, another set of 2 players who has also played more minutes? Shay Alexander or Ethan Coleman?
Ethan Coleman.
I'd say Ethan.
gonna go Coleman because I know Mackenzie played a couple of games at right back, and
Best player.
Che went to international duty as well.
No. Shea Alexander.
Really?
1,333 minutes. Ethan Coleman, 1,286. You forgot he was banned.
Yeah.
I know. I remember.
I remember
he was
that. But I
banned.
didn't. I did miss 3 games, didn't he?
I guess I'd have
But then he
struggled
got
to
that.
believe he gets to know
I
the
mean,
best
he
player
missed
at the
3,
club.
but he also played in the Papa John pizza thing, didn't he? I don't know.
Okay.
Did we all get that wrong?
You'll get
Yeah,
that wrong.
we all got that wrong.
Okay. Who's older? Shadogi or Dom Jeffries?
Shad.
Yeah, Shad.
Yeah. Shadogi.
Shadogi. Shadogi's 22, Dom Jeffries 21.
Both make me feel a bit old now.
Okay. Round it off then on the management team. New management team, Stephen Clemens and Robbie Stockdale. Okay. Who's made more appearances as a player? Stephen Clements or Robbie Stockdale? Alex.
I'm going to go with Clem.
Stockdale.
See, I know Clemens retired early. Me and I were going to draw him, but I'm going to go Stockdale as well.
Cop out.
Stephen Clements. Hang on. Wait.
Celebrations, if this is right.
Has 243 appearances. Robbie Stockdale. 257 appearances.
Oh,
That was a big build-up because we were able to withdraw. Tiebreaker, please, sir.
Tiebreaker.
Think of any random question off the top of your head. Wait, is Alex Strawn with us now? Because we got the Shea one wrong, didn't we?
No, he was.
No.
too-
I got the share right.
Right,
as well.
bad.
Okay.
Beth, collect your boy.
Okay. I think Nick's. Is Nick going to text me a tiebreaker question?
Oh, God.
Nick's going to text me a tiebreaker question.
Ashley Naderson.
Whatever it is, it will be Ashton Nelson. Or Scott Malone's arms. One of the two.
Well, we'll wait and see.
I don't try. With him, it could be anything.
It could be. The
How many hours sleep did Brad Gallinson get last night?
the waiting game.
Who has more followers, Block or Ashton Addison?
It's good content though.
It is good.
Great content.
Waiting
It's so much suspense right now.
It's not football related. I'll tell
Oh,
you for that for
God.
now.
No.
It's not football related. Are either you good on music?
No, he's literally. I don't know if he still does present radio shows.
Depends what. Yeah, me and Nick's age are a bit different. So.
I'm going to wait until he actually asks the question.
Oh, did he not send you the question?
He sent me the first part of it.
2 parts.
Right. In 1997, Celine Dion graced our screens with My Heart Will Go On. So how many LED panels are that around the ground? 142 or 156?
He's so proud of himself as well, you know. He's so
Wait, what?
proud of himself.
Let me read the question out again. In 1997, Celine Dion graced our screens with My Heart Will Go On. So how many LED panels are there around the ground? 142 or 156?
Is it related or is it?
You
just
do realise
being
this is
funny?
absolutely, the first part is absolutely not related.
It's the second part of
It's
the
just
question.
thrown
you need
you
to
off.
listen to.
What are the options?
142 or 156?
Do you know?
No.
I'll just take 142. You take 156.
All right, yeah, deal.
Lewis Brandon wins it. 156.
This is why I'm signing the football.
For the
I'm not
record, I
owning.
knew that.
No, you didn't.
Because I knew.
Oh, did you?
No, you
Yes,
didn't.
I
That's
knew
convenient
that.
how
It was
you're
one of
not a
those-
part of it.
It was one of those pointless bits of information that you pick up one day, and I just sort of remember it.
Where would you have possibly heard that?
He
Just
didn't know
let
it. He
pass
didn't
on,
know
don't
it.
worry about it.
No,
eh?
but he didn't
Don't help me like that, boys.
Okay.
Let me have the
So I
win.
don't get at what Celine Dion had to do with that at all. Nothing.
So
I
proud of
think
himself.
what we have found out is that Nick is a massive fan of Celine Dion. That is what it is. I think. Okay. An interesting and wonderful way to wrap up tonight's proceedings.
Just get a camera on Nick for the next episode, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he could probably spin it right now.
Genuinely think that would be a great second part of this.
Yeah.
Just have a camera on him throughout the whole thing.
I think what we will do.
All night I've been laughing.
I think what we will do is that we will get Nick on the show now. Are we? Yeah. Yeah, I think we are going to get Nick on the show now.
Does he need a microphone?
Nick, you need a microphone? Thank you, mate. Thank you for that. We will have to get you properly on the show, maybe one evening or one afternoon, one day maybe. Okay, thanks, Nick. Anyway, yeah, thank you, Alex. Thanks for tonight. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
As always speaking to you guys.
Cheers, mate. Owen.
He's asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you are, mate. Yeah. Lewis, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, mate. Been a pleasure.
No problem.
Get Nick to sing us out.
Oh, we'll go on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks for all watching tonight. You've been watching the ME7 podcast, Look Back Live, episode 2. The new era of Stevie Clemens has begun. Good night.